So here we go once again. It looks like if you don't stay on people's heads, man, they'll wind up changing the entire narrative of everything going on or the history of that which has taken place in America. So I didn't know that I would have to do a narrative correction on Michael Jackson. Moonwalk. I mean, I thought that was like knowledge, common knowledge, but look, check this video out and take a listen to what this guy has to say.
This is not the moonwalk. Let me explain. You can trace the dance we commonly refer to as a moonwalk as far back as the 1930s with dancers like Cab Calloway. The buzz, as it was known back then, soon became a staple for tap dancers like Bill Bailey in the 1950s. The name evolved into what would then become known as a tap slide.
Soul Train VTR3, take one.
When the 1970s rolled round, popping and locking had now taken centre stage. Soul Train was a prominent dance show. The tap slide had now been given a new name, the backslide. The dance move eventually found its way to 24-year-old Michael Jackson, courtesy of Jeffrey Daniels or Boogaloo Shrimp, depending on who you believe. On the 16th of May 1983, Michael Jackson unveiled the backslide to a worldwide audience. However, when asked the name of the dance, he accidentally replied, the moonwalk.
The interview did not go any further.
This is the moonwalk.
So did you hear that abominable nonsense right there? Okay, now this guy is apparently from across the pond somewhere, given the accent, and he doesn't know what he's talking about, but yet he's putting out content out there to teach the world about Michael Jackson and the moonwalk, about all of this American history and the names of the dancers. Okay, look, man. Guy with the English accent. This whole video it was a waste of time. You compiled all of this stuff. You wrote down your script and then you put it out there. You probably was like, yeah, this is gonna get him when I put this out there. But this is nonsense. You're talking about a dance that took place in America, originated and all of that stuff. And then you're saying what Michael Jackson did, he accidentally called it the moonwalk, and then somewhere down the line, Michael Jackson said, I mean, this is the moonwalk, what I'm doing right now. Listen, man, let's break this down piece by piece.
This is not the moonwalk.
That is the moonwalk. You want me to tell you how it's the moonwalk? Because that's what he named it. Now, just because there are certain people that have called a dance somewhere down the line, they called it that. Listen, do you know how many times somebody does a dance here in America and then they call it something, and then your parents will be like, boy, that ain't the jigga jagger. That's the funky chicken. That's what we called it back in the day. Yeah, different generations call a dance a different thing. They give it a different name. But it's the same dance. Michael Jackson just happened to call it the moonwalk. Why? Because it symbolizes you walking in an anti-gravity atmosphere. That's why it was called the moonwalk. That thing you showed at the end, do you know how late that was? That came way later. And let me show you just how much it doesn't make sense what you said. Look.
The moonwalk.
Look, this is what he said.
This is the moonwalk.
He's not walking. Did you pay attention to that? He's not walking. That is a move where you stay in place and you do whatever he called that. But that's not a moonwalk. The moonwalk actually is walking. Now, we already are battling enough here in America just trying to keep the narrative correct, as far as history goes. But now we have people putting out misinformation like this, and you probably think it's nothing big. It is. It is. We have to correct every piece of narrative that they're trying to twist and lie about. Now, I'm not saying that you were lying, but what you said was not the truth. So you call it whatever you want to call it, but that's not the truth. What Michael Jackson did when he did that dance that you say is not the moonwalk.
This is not the moonwalk.
Michael Jackson did that. He did pretty much what every person that wants to put their signature on a dance does. They call it something, or their signature on any sort of movement that someone else can say that was done before. Take Floyd Mayweather, for instance. Floyd Mayweather, his style, his defensive style, guess what he calls it? He calls it the Mayweather defense. And a lot of people call it the Mayweather defense when they see him doing it. But guess what? Before him, it was called the Philly Shell. The Philly Shell. Now, is what Mayweather is doing not the Mayweather defense? Oh, that's not the Mayweather defense. That's the Philly Shell. It's the Mayweather defense because Mayweather's doing it, and that's what he called it. Right? Now, you're going to bust in there and be like, no, that's not the Mayweather defense. The Mayweather defense is when he's holding a fork up and throwing it in the air and catching it and juggling balls. Dude, this is the moonwalk. All of these examples that you said were not the moonwalk. Were the moonwalk. Whether they called it spliffin', jiffin', or hibbin' bippin', it is the moonwalk. And I would have thought that this was universal knowledge. But you come in and you act like you're giving new information, and it's misinformation. And in America, we're trying to keep the narrative of American, especially Black American, contributions and the historical record. We're trying to keep that from being tainted, misconstrued, twisted, and lied on. So you can help out by not making any more videos about things you don't know what you're talking about. Okay? Now, that being said, I hope that you have a great day, and I wish you well on the other side of the pond. Not gonna make it, beat a dead horse here, but man, you don't know what you're talking about. Let's play this again.
Let me explain. You can trace the dance we commonly refer to as a moonwalk as far back as the 1930s with dancers like Cab Calloway. The buzz, as it was known back then, soon became a staple for tap dancers like Bill Bailey in the 1950s.
Now, let me ask you something. Did you read a book? Is this where you found all this stuff out, or were you watching YouTube videos?
The name evolved into what would then become known as a tap slide.
Soul Train VTR 3, take one.
When the 1970s rolled around, popping
I grew up on Soul Train.
and locking had now taken center stage.
What were y'all watching Soul Train across the pond? I'm just wondering.
Soul Train was a prominent dance show. The tap slide had now been given a new name, the backslide. The dance move eventually found its way to 24-year-old Michael Jackson, courtesy of Jeffrey Daniels or Boogaloo Shrimp, depending on who you believe. On the 16th of May 1983, Michael Jackson unveiled the backslide to a worldwide audience. However, when asked the name of the dance, he accidentally replied.
Accidentally. Now let me ask you something. Did you ask Michael Jackson whether or not it was an accident? Or did you just make that up in your head? You made that up in your head. Like, what did he mean to say? What did he mean to say then? He accidentally replied. Come on, man. We don't need people twisting the narrative. If you don't know what you're talking about, please stop. You know, we had to check Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes was out there saying American, you know, the U.S. has no culture. And I'm like, wait a minute, man, what are you talking about? He said, nobody understands rhythm like the Latino in the Caribbean. All of that, you know, the U.S. ain't got no culture. All of their stuff is our stuff. What are you talking about? Because I know that my roots go extremely deep in this country. You know, before a slave ship arrived here. You're saying that we were just sitting here diddling our thumbs waiting on the Caribbeans and the Latinos to show us what a rhythm was? Yeah, so we have a lot of narrative correction, and a lot of it seems to be centered around music and the creative arts. Quite interesting. He accidentally replied, "You don't know what you're talking about, man."
Slide, the moonwalk.
The interview did not go any further.
This is the moonwalk.
This is a lie. Man isn't even walking. Man, okay, I am done. But I just hope that next time, before you do a video, you turn your computer off and apologize.